Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, the Bahamas remains on heightened alert for the chikungunya and dengue virus. Find out what the Ministry of Health officials have to say.
A self-defense exercise goes horribly wrong.
And Girl Guides usually help the community, but now they need the community to help them. We'll explain. The Bahamas Tonight starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
A teenager is dead and his cousin is being questioned by police in connection with the tragedy. Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles.
And I'm Opal Roach. Thanks so much for joining us. The incident took place on Saturday night just outside the victim's home. Family members remain in shock as they have to come to grips with this double blow. Our LaDawn Davis talked to relatives today about the sad ordeal.
Small bloodstains splattered across the wall and pavement of this green home in Golden Gates is a constant reminder of what family members call a self-defense lesson that went terribly wrong. 13-year-old Gilbert Bain Jr.'s mother says that another family member was showing young Gilbert self-defense, a lesson that ended in Gilbert getting accidentally stabbed. His mother, Casa Bain, who has 3 other children, says she immediately took action when she realized her eldest son was stabbed once to the stomach.
Well, they was outside playing and I called them inside after their father left, and I didn't know Gilbert went back outside until he came inside and told me that his cousin just stabbed him. But I didn't see any blood on him until he moved his hand. And when he moved his hand, then the blood started to gush out. So I jumped up and I asked where he was and why he did it. And he just continued saying he stabbed him. So my daughter lifted up his shirt, and after lifting up his shirt, that's when she noticed that his intestine was hanging out.
Gilbert died in hospital on Sunday afternoon. His visibly distraught father, Gilbert Bain Sr., says this is a double blow for the family as the man who took his son's life was his very own nephew. But to bring some relief to a dark situation, Gilbert reflected on his son's love for basketball.
He's a freak for Oklahoma. That's his team. Kevin around is his best player. You know. So that's where he's a good boy. I can't believe my son gone. I can't believe my son gone. And he ain't tell me he gone. He ain't tell me nothing. The last one he talked was my little boy. He talked to my little boy. I say, what he say? Say, he knocked at the ground and say, Miguel, what you do? It's my nephew who checked my son. Say, why you do this? My next son say, he say, I got dead. That's when they came.
Now that young man responsible for Gilbert's death is now in police custody pending their investigations. LaDawn Davis, ZNS Network News.
From the health sector, it's been rapidly spreading across the region. The mosquito-borne chikungunya virus shows similar symptoms to the dengue virus, but shouldn't be confused. And although local health officials confirm there have been no reported cases so far, Janaea Noel Ferguson tells us tonight medical officials are stepping up efforts to ensure that we don't have an epidemic on our hands.
Despite having no reported cases of dengue or the chikungunya virus, both of which are transmitted by mosquitoes, the country is on heightened alert.
The good thing is for the Bahamas, we have continued to have screening for both dengue and chikungunya, but we have not found any cases of either. Dengue is something that we will often have pass through the Bahamas, not necessarily endemically transmitted, but we do know that we will pick up cases every now and again. So we have maybe 10 to 12 over the course of a year, but unlike the years of 2011, 2012, where we had a few thousand people that were affected, we definitely haven't seen those types of numbers at all. So we're on heightened alert, especially since both are continuing to travel through the Caribbean.
Deputy Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Delon Brennan, says testing has increased as countries like Canada have issued warnings to its nationals traveling to several Caribbean islands, the Bahamas excluded.
For both things is we're screening more and more patients as well. So we have developed newer technologies when it comes to rapid testing for dengue that we employ in the public health sector, both at our clinics and at our hospitals. But in addition to that, we're also monitoring what our mosquito indexes are, so seeing how much of the mosquitoes we have around, either adult mosquitoes or larvae, in order to see what is the likelihood that if someone was to come in, that would be able to be transmitted.
Chikungunya, or the disease that bends, causes high fever, joint pain, headaches, and a rash. And with the number of cases reported across the region, Brennan says there have also been fears from many here that they may have contracted the virus.
As long as people are coming in with fever, they come in with body aches, you do have to be aware and make sure that we're not misdiagnosing people with one thing versus the other. So if a patient's already affected, there really isn't that much you can do for that one patient. You treat them symptomatically. There are no antibiotics or treatments that will specifically target it, but what we want to do is prevent spread within those communities. So testing within a day or so is actually acceptable so that we know once we have a case that's picked up, we know we either need to provide better either larvicides or adulticides when it comes to spraying or treating of water systems in order to prevent transmission to other people.
Now, although the dengue virus reached an epidemic scale about 2 years ago, Dr. Brennan says they have increased testing this year, and should you feel any flu-like symptoms, you're asked to go to your nearest healthcare facility. I'm Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Thanks, Janae. While the Bahamas and regional countries are apparently seen as a dumping ground for some food products, and that's why government is moving ahead with a standards bureau.
A major step towards this goal was taken today as stakeholders shared their suggestions on the way forward. Investment Minister Kailis Roll and Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Delon Brennan talked about the importance of a bureau.
Despite signing on to these agreements, the Bahamas still has not been able to take full advantage of them. Effectively, we are being somewhat prohibited by this particular barrier to trade, which may have a negative impact on our local industries and their ability to compete regionally and internationally.
And implementation will see an expansion of our ability to provide a package of healthcare services to all members of our population, providing both health and financial protection to us all. We will use standards to implement it and will provide standards for other nations to follow.
Minister of Finance Michael Halkitis added that the benefits of a bureau would improve living conditions in the Bahamas. Meanwhile, Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources V. Alfred Gray noted that significant hiring will take place to ensure that only the best products enter the country. CEO of the Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Edison Sumner, also supported the implementation of a standards bureau and sees it as an economic benefit for the country.
The government, the Cabinet of the Bahamas, has approved the immediate hiring of some 14 scientists of whatever kind you call them, to ensure that the agency which is to be established is staffed by competent, highly trained professionals to ensure the quality delivery of services to the Bahamian people.
We must remember in all we do that we are not competing only amongst ourselves, but we are also competing against regional and international organizations who themselves may already have standards in place, which effectively places us in a disadvantageous position.
Well, Minister Kailis Roll also talked about the country's investment climate. He noted a number of projects are underway and investor confidence is growing. And while there have been many questions on whether or not the implementation of value-added tax would hurt the economy, Roll said that's far from the truth.
I don't see any reason why people would not see it as a safe place to do business, as a viable place to do business. Wherever you go throughout the world, there is some form of taxation. What VAT does is it reduces the amount of taxes that you have floating out there. And there's no secret, our system, our fiscal system is old, It's archaic, it's antiquated, and it does not meet the modern needs of a country like the Bahamas. And the hysteria is created on one or two components, as opposed to looking at it as a major effort to modernize the country. I would not suggest anything, I would not support anything that is not beneficial to the well-being of Bahamians.
Look at whether a stall-out front boundary across the southeast Bahamas will dissipate over the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, a weak high pressure is building over the central and southeastern islands, and that will provide some moderate winds over the next couple of days and mostly sunny days. But outside of our studios, we have a few clouds, temperatures 72 degrees, your relative humidity 69%, winds out of the northeast at 8 knots, your barometric pressure 1,023.5 millibars. That's 1022.2 inches, and it is rising. But stay tuned, temperatures around the family of islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
And coming up, an agricultural revolution on the island of Andros. Find out all about it.
And Girl Guides usually help the community. Find out the horrible reason why they need help from the community. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Lux Men's Warehouse.